sophomore showing at bantamweight for the first of two fighters that were able to make it to the finals of the road to UFC earlier on this year. We have Toshiomi Kazama taking on a fellow sophomore attempt, and it is Marathon MMA Zone, Garrett Armfield. Matt, this is a really interesting fight at bantamweight because for Garrett Armfield, really crisp boxing, that's the underrated part of his game. We know him so much as a wrestler, and Armfield has been a part of a lot of big-time camps. We used to see him at Killcliff. We've seen him at Marathon. Maybe it was a little bit of that secret sauce with Trey Ogden to get Miranda Maverick her last win in sharing with that gym. But Armfield was also a big part of Lioness Studio when Amanda Nunes went out on her own. So a lot of heavy praise for a guy like Armfield, who's only had one fight in the UFC. It was on short notice. It was a rematch of a fight that happened when Armfield was an amateur against David Onama. And you're not going to find many bigger 45ers, but Armfield did in that one. And he was very unsuccessful. And for Armfield, he's had a couple of fights that have fallen out since. He was supposed to take on C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez. He was supposed to have another fight earlier on this year. Things just haven't been in the cards for Armfield. So now this time out, he gets to bring that boxing, that wrestling against Toshiomi Kazama, a guy whose jiu-jitsu is on point, and his wrestling can be there as well. But for Kazama's last time out, unfortunate that he fought Rinya Nakamura, and he got dropped a couple of times in that one and finished. So for Kazama, nothing but good things to say about him. I mean, you look at his jiu-jitsu, he's competing at meets all the time, but you look at how his jiu-jitsu translates into MMA, and it's perfect. It fits like a glove. So you look at it for Kazama, even that win that he had before the road to UFC tournament, and that was against Shinsuke Miyabi, and that was a one-night tournament that he had in that one. I mean, my God, like chicken wing behind his back, like made him tap. It was disgusting. So Kazama, great with his jiu-jitsu. And I mean, if you look at it for Kazama, out of his 10 wins, 8 of them are by submission. Like I said, I mean, he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He was the IBJJF, I said ADCC, I meant to say IBJJF champ. In 2018-2019, his nickname on the regional scene was Silent Finisher. Because her parents are home, Matt. Silent Finisher. That was the nickname. But if you do consider it, I mean, he was one of the guys that actually did get a bye in this tournament. His opponent, Kim Min-woo, weighed in at 139.5, so he got a bye there. Got the win over WLF War star Karimwali Mametwadi, and in that one, I mean, he was 27-11. One of those prospects that WLF Wars, you never know what you're going to get. And that
it's like
time,
a box of chocolates.
You got a bad fighter. So, as I said, Kazama in that debut against Nakamura, the weird thing about it was, I found that in that fight, more so than any other Kazama fight on the regional scene, he chased the action with his boxing, and he got completely outstruck in that one. So, is it an outlier's last fight? I think Nakamura is a very, very talented fighter, and I think he's going to go on to do really big things, not just with the wrestling, but the striking as well. So Kazama, it's a little bit of a fight down, it seems. For Garrett Armfield, this is going to be in his natural weight class, and he's a very talented fighter in his own right.
I'm really curious to see if Kazama can have success off his back with his own with his own grappling in this matchup, because I do think Armfield is the better wrestler just for wrestling's sake. So, okay, whoever's going to decide to take this fight to the mat, I would assume Armfield's probably going to be the one to dictate those terms, but it's not like the fight gets that much easier the second you hit the mat. You bring it up. Kazama not only has great submission ability, he has a wide variety of submissions, and he can go for a lot too. What I like out of him, he likes that Kimura not only for a submission, but he'll use that to try to sweep his opponent, and I think that's going to be something that's really important in this matchup, because again, like I said, if Armfield's the one who's going to be securing a lot of these takedown attempts, it's going to come down to, can Kazama either threaten enough with his submission to make those takedown attempts not as frequent or as high velocity, or can he go for sweeps off his back? And I think that's going to be really important. Now, Armfield's not some, like, scrub on the mat. It's not like he just doesn't know what to do the second he is able to accomplish those takedowns, but if Kazama can at least make it slippery and sticky, and I guess those are two complete opposite words, but if he can make it sticky enough for him on the mat so he's not just that confident to go rinse and repeat with his own takedown attempts, I think this is going to be a phenomenal fight.
And we've seen that happen to Garrett Armfield. His fight against Canadian, now BFL champ, who's fighting on Contender Series next week, Mateo Vogel. First round, Armfield has all the success in the world. Looks like he's going to finish Vogel. And then in the second round, Vogel rallies back and he finishes Garrett Armfield. So if you look at it for Kazama, a guy who loves the chicken wing, hot dog, and bologna, he's able to get those submission wins like we've never seen before. Kazama, the other thing about him is I find it interesting when I look at gyms that I don't normally see. And for Armfield, Killcliff, Marathon, on Lioness Studio. You know the cast and crew. We talk about them very often. But Kazama trains out of Heart Studio MMA over in Japan. So you look at the guys that he's training with. It's kind of similar to Tatsuro Taira. He's out there. He's training with Chihiro Suzuki. I don't know Suzuki. I'm watching his fights, and then he knocks out Patricio Pitbull. Never thought that would happen. Kazama, he's at Heart Studio MMA, and all of a sudden, who drops into the chat a few weeks ago? Sung friggin' Yadong, after the fight falls out with Rob Font. So really cool to see that for Kazama. He is the underdog in this matchup. For Armfield, you watch his fights, and I said this about Michał Oleksiejczuk, but Armfield loves to go jab or at least the straight to the body to make his opponents think. You saw that against Graham. He comes back up top, feints the jab, and then comes in with the uppercut, drops Graham like a sack of potatoes. Armfield is favored in this one, as I alluded to. We look at the Tapology votes. Surprised us there to you. I think the fans like Armfield in this one. I'm going to say over under 65% Armfield here.
I'll say under.
I'm going to say under. It's slightly over. 667 total votes. 68% Armfield. 76% by decision. For the 32% that have Kazama, 51% by decision, 36% by submission. So who do you have in this fight? Because I think it's going to be really competitive.
Give me the underdog. I'll take Kazama in this matchup. Again, I do think he is going to be active enough off his back. That's why I bring up those positions so often. And I do think on the feet, do I favor Armfield with his technique? Yes, I do. I think he is a little bit more crisp with his power shots. But again, it's not like he's a Max Holloway like we're seeing in the main event. If he stands in that pocket for an extra second, I could see Kazama having his own success in the feet too. And if he's able to get the top position on the mat, this will be a really interesting fight to see.
Folks are going to hate this episode of Fight Night Picks. You make your picks too, and you let us know who you have down below in the comments section. I like Garrett Armfield. When I went back and I did the tape study, strong wrestling, strong positionally. That Vogel fight, we did see it kind of crack and break a little bit, but I think Armfield is a much better striker out of these two, and I think he can really capitalize on that because Kazama, even in his fight that he had on the road to UFC against, and I want to make sure I get it right, Karamwali, in that one, he's chasing a lot and he's not defending a lot. He doesn't have a lot of head movement. So we're splitting the pick in this one. Matt going with Kazama, the silent finisher. I'm going with Garrett Armfield. You let us know down below in the comment section who you have. Some big time fights on this card, including the next one between Waldo Cortes-Acosta and Lukasz Brzeski. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.